Hi, everyone, and welcome to my demo video on my session entitled Translational Practices for Educators, Unpacking Research on the Science of Learning. My name is Dr. Angela Elkordy. I'm an Assistant Professor of Learning Sciences and Educational Leadership Studies at the National College of Education and the National Louis University, and that's based out of the Chicago area. And we do quite a bit of teaching online, and that served us well, particularly in the last year. So as a teacher and school leader educator, I work with students at the graduate and the doctoral level. My interest really is in here is the learning sciences and how do people learn and how to use that information to teach others about evidence-based practice and researching their own practice. And in the course of this, I teach classes in the learning sciences, for example, Introduction to Learning Sciences and Technologies. And throughout my classes, I've really been interested in this idea of, how do we translate empirical research into actionable knowledge that teachers can use, educators can use in the classroom. And in that sense, the learning sciences, as they're being regarded currently, are very much a translational kind of science, in that they take the findings of the empirical studies and make them accessible for educators to integrate them into their practice. So this research is also based on, I have a book that I wrote with a co-author, my colleague, Dr. Ann Kenneman, called Design Ed, and that is published by ISTE. And that was the outcome of one of my courses in the learning sciences. So for our purposes today, this session it will be helpful to teachers, but it's really aimed at instructional leaders to understand what they have to see and bring to their faculty in order to understand more about the learning sciences and how to leverage their teaching practices for maximum effect. This presentation has four main sections. We're going to talk about an overview of the learning sciences and where we are now, and talk about that in particular as a translational science. We're going to look at talk about evidence of learning, and this is a question I love to ask my learners: is how do you know that your students are learning? How do you measure that in various ways? And frequently teachers will use data from test scores. That's only one data point, right? There's so many different ways to measure progress in learning. We're also going to talk about leveraging the learning sciences to create curious and independent learners that are able to leverage this understanding of their own learning to be more effective. And we're going to look at number 4, designing opportunities for learners using these ideas, and considering teaching as a design science, in that it's iterative and is a cycle of modifications and trying to reach independent learners and a variety of learners, after which we make modifications. So just very briefly, looking at some of the challenges and that impact learning, particularly this year, and understanding a little bit more about, why does SEL have an impact, the science behind that a little bit. considering learner variability and understanding why prior knowledge is not just background knowledge, it's actually critical in the building of new knowledge. And that's why it's so important to understand student misconceptions. And sharing some of the findings from my own teaching through concept maps and asking teachers to reflect. So this is one of my students that says it's key for teachers to understand the core tenets of science of learning. So I look forward to discussing this with you and meeting you at the session. So hope to see you. Thank you. Bye-bye.